Hey, this is Doug Field, CEO of the Institute for Healthcare Consumers, along with my co-host Brent Macy, and welcome back to the final segment of Healthcare Consumerism Radio and our theme of celebrating the 10-year anniversary of HSAs. And, we've got joining us today somebody that not only does he have a long arm of experience with HSAs, but he's sitting in an interesting catbird seat right now to take a look at all the different moving parts. And welcome to the program, Todd Berkley, Principal, HSA Consulting. Hey, Todd.
Hi, thanks.
Hey,
glad to be here.
Good to have you here. Long time no talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you recover from dinner yet?
I did. I went out to dinner with these two guys and John Young on my anniversary night. I haven't been forgiven by my wife for going out to dinner with you on my anniversary, so it'll cost me big, I'm sure.
Well, we really appreciate it. You kind of put an interesting theme on your speaker questionnaire, and I want you to talk to that because I think it's very interesting. You talk about the best yet to come, taking a look at kind of the microwave history and the disruptive future of HSAs. Let's start from there. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, the microwave history, this 10 years, I've been associated with HSAs directly since 2005, so I came in right after Exante, now Optum, had launched their HSA, and it has been a wild ride. I know some are disappointed that we're only 7% of the commercially insured population, and I agree it could be and should be a lot higher than that. Right. But, boy, we've been through a lot. And for a company, and I'm coming from the banking perspective. I actually come from a consumer banking background, managed deposit products for some large institutions. And, to come into this business where you've got three industries all coming together in one small account. You've got the healthcare industry, you've got the banking industry, and you've got the investment industry, none of which talk to each other very well, none of which understand each other. And there's all these handoffs with a consumer in the middle that's, frankly, often brought in against their will. Their employers changed their insurance. They liked being chauffeured around. They liked that Cadillac plan. Thank you very much. I found, though, that even in that kind of environment, the consumer eventually, it's a little rough sometimes in the first couple months, but eventually learned to love this program. I think like 80-85% of people who are in these plans for a year or so will say this is the best thing that ever happened once they figure out how it's really changed their life. And so from a banker's perspective, kind of coming into this kind of an account, which, by the way, only has still about a $2,000 average balance. Mm-hmm. So you're making all this stuff happen. You're dealing with employers. You're dealing with brokers. You're dealing with health plans. You're dealing with the consumer. And it's very there's a lot going on there. There's been a lot of investment by the pioneers in this space. And so the microwave history has really been, okay, how do we get these things up and going? How do we communicate with all these different partners? Now we've got to have investments, so we've got to connect that in. At one point, everyone had to have a line of credit. It was just demanded in the marketplace, and a bunch of the leading companies developed one, and then no one came and used it. It was more of a phantom need than an actual need. And then a lot of it has been just around how do you swallow, 100 or 200,000 accounts that all come on one day. Yeah. And it's a huge operational challenge to really build the operational capability to be able to open up all these new accounts, to educate people, to help them understand how the account works. At the same time, your existing customers are coming and making deposits often for the whole year in that month of January. So, I mean, between now and the middle of January, things are really, really rocking on the operational side of the house. And so there's just been a lot of good work done to get to where we are today.
Todd, from your banking perspective, we were in a meeting yesterday in Minneapolis, and interesting perspective, and want to know if you see the same thing, that, banks a year or two ago were saying, hey, how do we get out of this? We're in it, but now let's get out of it. Now we see kind of the opposite happening. Banks saying, no, we're going to stay and play, and even new banks coming in. What do you see from your seat?
Absolutely, I think it's been a bit a blessing and a curse for the pioneer companies that have been here. They've put a lot of money into these accounts. They're not wildly profitable at this point. However, I think they look back at the experience with the IRA and 401k banks originally owned that space, and they put everybody's IRA into a CD, right? And then these little companies like Fidelity and Vanguard and T. Rowe Price come out of nowhere and just completely stole that business away from them,
That's true.
and they missed the boat. And so I think a lot of banks look at it that way to say, if this thing is if I could have a little piece of every dollar spent on health care, and if I could get the kind of deposit growth that I could get out of these accounts, it's a business I really have to be in. Some have stayed on the sidelines. I think they're starting to move. Right now, there's a lot of market entrants, and being an independent consultant, I'm starting to see a lot of those kinds of companies.
Right.
Say, how do we enter this space? Or companies from different parts of the different. Completely different companies coming in and eyeing this space. So I think you're going to see a lot of disruptive innovation over the next few years as this thing starts to come into the mainstream.
Todd,
go ahead.
We were up when we were up in Minneapolis with you guys. We heard a personal story from someone when we were up there, and they had mentioned that they had a hospital bill that was in the millions of dollars, and had they had a traditional plan, they would have been in trouble, but yet they had an HSA with a high deductible and ended up only having to pay their deductible for the services. And one of the stigmas that's on HSAs is it's for the healthy and the wealthy. That's not necessarily true, is it?
No, absolutely not. And I would say, we fought that very, very hard in the early years. And frankly, from a banker's perspective, we've been, I think, very disappointed in the wealthier parts of our population. According to the AHIP study that came out a couple of years ago, and I think they're refreshing that now, the average $100,000 household only put in like $1,000 when they could put in $6,000. It's hard to engage those wealthy people. But yet where I've seen tremendous engagement is on the lower end of the market. As Dr. Nealman mentioned, a lot of small businesses, they're all in.
Yeah.
So their entire population is in here. One of our early clients at Optum was a large fast food vendor, and they had all kinds of assistant managers, fast food assistant managers that were in their stores that were in HSAs, and they were Pioneer. And you get in a focus group and talk to people like that, and they'd say, I've never had a savings account before. My employer gives me money. That's my money. And I have $700 in my own HSA, and I can use that however I want. And even if I leave this company, I get to keep that money.
Yeah.
It's very empowering. And so I think it works across the spectrum. And actually, I think that came in handy in the next phase of the history, which was starting around 2007, 2008, when both we had a little threat of substantiation being imposed upon this, which we were very much against because we really see very little evidence of people spending their own money in the wrong ways. But also, there was a change in the political tide, and George Bush had been, the champion of these products. At the time, it was not very popular to be aligned with George Bush as his industry, and we could see, political winds changing, and so there were some real threats there that we could just get wiped off the map. And so we just started working as an industry, working together to educate lawmakers and others about how these things are working. And one of the slides I used to use in a lot of those meetings just went down President Obama's 8 principles for health reform and showed how HSAs were working in the marketplace. They're getting people, insurance. They're the most portable thing. That's one of your goals. You're trying to avoid bankruptcy. Well, the average out-of-pocket cost, it's a statutorial limit to what you mentioned earlier, but on average, according to Kaiser, it's only $7,000. So you usually don't hear of someone losing their house because they had to pay a $7,000 bill.
Right.
Whereas if they're on a 20% traditional copay plan and they're paying a $1.2 million bill, they may lose their house.
Yeah.
And so our story as an industry was, we're not looking for special favors. We're not saying that we're the only thing we need, but we are saying we're a very positive force in this industry. And just leave us alone. Don't kill us. And as it turns out, I believe they've embraced us as if there's an affordable part of the Affordable Care Act, it would be an HSA plan. And so I think whether Obamacare, makes it or doesn't make it, I think the best is yet to come for HSAs. And I think a lot of that is going to be very disruptive, both just because the whole concept is disruptive. It's different. It's a completely different way of approaching the healthcare system, of thinking about your healthcare, And frankly, when you kick people in the wallet, especially men, when they realize I'm on the hook.
Yeah.
If I want to start losing some weight and taking care of my adult onset diabetes or whatever it is, I'm just hurting myself because no one's going to pay my bills like they used to. And so there's something about that, as Chris mentioned, people will get up, they'll take their preventive care, they'll do that colonoscopy, they'll do the things they need to do to keep themselves healthy because part of it's because they're spending their own money. They spend their own money different than they spend someone else's money.
Todd, we've got about a minute to go and, enjoy this conversation. I want to give you a chance to kind of wrap this up for our audience from your perspective. Give them, a couple takeaways you'd like to leave them with.
Sure. Well, I reiterate, I think the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see HSAs move into the mainstream. I think you're going to see massive growth and adoption. But not only growth and adoption, I think you're going to see innovation as the consumer comes to the forefront. And as companies start making their products much more consumer-friendly. And we're seeing aspects of that throughout the HSA industry today. I actually own 12 HSAs myself, and I see in different offerings that they're starting to take an angle. One's doing innovation around the investment. One's doing innovation around how you manage your receipts. One's pulling the FSA, HSA experience together. You're starting to see that happen on the edges. The other thing is that I think the pace of change is going to continue to accelerate. And part of that is because employers are gaining confidence. Part of that is because individuals are starting to assert themselves and demand different experiences. And then these new market entrants that could come in from anywhere are really going to bring the best of what they do into this space. And it's going to be a wild ride. I'm really looking forward. It's an exciting time to be a consultant. I'm really, really excited to have been associated with the beginnings of the HSA product, and I think the best is yet to come. And so it's going to be fun.
Todd, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Have a great weekend. And to the rest of our audience, we will see you next Friday for Healthcare Consumerism Radio.